All right, in this first lesson, we're going to learn how to use Scratch, and we're going to make a small little game that will add two random numbers together and ask the user for the answer. It'll check that answer, and if the user is correct, the user's character gets to move forward and try to beat the computer player in a race. And the computer player is going to move at his own pace. So let's get started. First thing you want to do is once you're into Scratch, if you're already in a project and you want to make a new one, go to File, New, and then give this guy a name. And we're going to call him Integer Operations Race. Integer Operations Race. And just click out of that to save it. And then if it says Save Now over here, you can click that. It does save automatically every few minutes, but just make sure that's not there when you close it. You might miss your last little bit of work. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is set up our variables. The second thing we're going to do is set up the host, the character that's going to ask us the questions, and then we're going to set up the opponent and the player. So let's find us a backdrop for this. Okay, let's go with I like the city one. Let's see if there's another one with water real quick. No. Oh, here's an underwater one. Let's do the underwater one. All right, so that's our backdrop. That's what our background of our game looks like. So now we're going to add our characters. So we need a host. We need a host. Let's do this cat flying, but he's really swimming. So we'll pretend like he's swimming up here. So he's going to ask us the questions. And then our two, you're welcome to pick any you want. So some people picked the cars and did a city. Some people picked the dinosaurs. I'm going to pick two divers. So my orange diver goes here. And I'm going to pick the purple diver to be the computer player. Let's put him right here. So they're going to race to the edge of this screen over here. Now, one thing you want to be really careful of, because we're testing to see if they hit the edge, make sure that he's not already touching the edge. So make sure it's not like that, because these flippers are touching the edge. And if we're checking for that, it will give us a false positive because he's really touching the edge, but we want this edge over here. All right, now this is super important because if you put the code in the wrong place, it makes it hard to figure out what's going on. So I want the cat to be the race official. I want him to ask the questions. So I need to make sure he's selected. So whatever you're working with will be highlighted down here, and you'll have this little grayed out icon up here so you can see what you're working with. So I want to make sure that the cat is selected, or whoever you picked as a host. All right, so let's set up our variables. So these variables will hold information for us. I'm going to delete these real quick so I can remake them. You shouldn't have to worry about it. You should already have a blank slate there. So I need number one. I need just a number to hold a number. It doesn't matter what the number is yet. I need a second number, so number 2. And then I also need something to hold the correct answer. And make sure you don't change the for all sprites. It needs to make sure that guy's right there selected. All right, so now I have 3 variables, and notice they're on the screen right here. We're going to hide them in just a minute, but for testing purposes, we want to make sure everything works. We want to leave them there. So let's go over. When we click the green flag, we want the program to start running. So let's go to events, because clicking the green flag is an event. And then the first thing we want to do is we want to pick a number for number 1, and we want to pick a number for number 2, and then we want to add them together to store the correct answer so we can check it against what the user puts in later. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to set number 1 to a random number, so that's an operator, so pick random 1 to 10. Okay? And we can change these numbers later. I'm going to leave them at 1 to 10 right now just for testing. Go back to variables, and we're going to set number 2 to also be random. And don't forget, if I'm going too fast or if you need to pause the video, that's the cool thing about the videos. You can just pause them, you can rewind, you can watch them over and over and over. So this is going to set number 1 and number 2 to a random number between 1 and 10. And then I want to store the correct answer. So I'm going to store the correct answer. And I want that to be whatever this number is plus whatever this number is. So I'm going to pull out the plus operator. And notice how it turns white when I get close to it. That means it's going to pop into that spot. All right, so I want to get the correct answer is number 1 plus number 2. So I'm going to drag that over. Again, watch how, see how the whole thing turns white? I don't want that. I just want it to go in that slot, just like that. And then I want number 2 to go here. Okay, so what's going to happen, as soon as I click this flag, it's going to pick a random number from 1 to 10, store it in number 1. It's going to pick another random number from 1 to 10 and store it in number 2. And then it's going to add those two together and store them in the correct answer. So let's test that out. All right, so the first random number it picked was 9. That's definitely between 1 and 10. Number 2, they picked 8. Again, fits in our range. And then 9 plus 8 is 17. So let's try this again to make sure. Just click it a few times, make sure everything's working. You might get exactly the same numbers because it's random, but you should get different numbers every time. All right, so that's working good. So I'm going to change this to 20, say 25. And I'm going to change this to 25 just to give us a bigger range. So now let's test it real quick. Perfect. 15 and 18 is 33. Okay, so I know that's working now, so I can hide those by turning off these little check marks over here. Because I don't want the correct answer on the screen, and I want the cat to actually ask the question. All right, so now let's go to sensing. And I want the cat to ask, what is the total? Whoops. So what is, now, I want it to ask, what is this number plus this number? So I have to do that using a join statement. Okay, so I'm going to put this down here for now. So what join does is, well, let's just pop it in right there. So if I ask join apple, banana, and I run it, the cat's going to say apple, banana. So what it does is it joins whatever text or whatever items you have in here. Okay, so I want it to ask, what is number plus number? So there's a couple ways I could do this. Unfortunately, I'm going to need multiple join statements because it only joins 2 at a time. So I'm going to pull this out for now, and I'm going to put that one in the second one. So I can join 3 things now. So 1, 2, 3. I can join number, and then I'm going to put space plus space, and I just put the spaces in there to give it a little bit of extra readability. And so now I have number, join, so number plus number. So now if I put this in here, he's going to say 9 plus 8. And that's okay for now. I'm not going to get too complicated with this. So what he's waiting for is, once I run it, what he's waiting for is the answer. And then that answer is going to be stored in this variable right here. So you're definitely going to need that from time to time. All right, so answer. So see right now, if I click answer, it's blank because I haven't typed anything in. So let's run it. 15 plus 2 is 17. So if I hit enter now and then click on this, see I have 17. So 17 is stored in the answer. So now, what I want to do is I want to check to make sure to see if the user got it right. Okay, so I need to go up to the control because I'm going to do a control block to control what happens next. Okay, so I'm going to use an if-then statement. So what this really means is if whatever I put in this little box here is true, then it's going to do whatever I put in this box. If whatever goes into the diamond shape is not true, then it's going to do this down here. So it's going to make a choice based on what I ask it. And what I want to know is if the user's answer equals the correct answer, then I want to say yay, or you got it right, or whatever, you can move forward a little bit. If it's wrong, I need to tell the user that it's wrong and not let them move. Okay? So this if, then, else block. So if this is true, then it does this. So let's tell the player they can move. So we're going to broadcast. I think that's under events. Yeah, we're going to broadcast. We don't want to broadcast and wait. We just want to broadcast a message, and we want to make our own message. So let's say go. So the cat's going to yell go, and when he does, we're going to put some code on our player that listens for that, and when it hears it, it's going to move forward. And then we want the cat to say, and that's under looks, we want the cat to say, and we want it to go under the go. We want him to say whatever you want him to say, but that's correct or something like that. So if the answer the user gives is equal to the correct answer that we calculated in the code, then the host is going to say go, our user player can move, and then he's going to say correct for 2 minutes. If it's wrong, he's going to say sorry, that's not right, or something along those lines. Okay, now we've got to a good point. We've done a lot of work here, so let's test it before we get too much farther. It's always good to test your programs. All right, so he asks me, what is 17 plus 20? Well, 17 plus 20 is 37. So when I hit enter, it should be right, so he should say correct, and he's going to say go. You're not going to see it because it's a broadcast inside the code, but he's going to tell my player to move. Well, I haven't written the code for the player to move, so he's not really going to move yet, but he's allowed to. So hit enter, so that's correct. All right. Now notice the program stopped. That's not what I want to do, but we'll fix that in a minute. So now I have 2 plus 9. I'm going to say 987 just to show you what happens. So now it's going to be incorrect. So it's not going to be equals. So now it's going to go to the else statement and say, sorry, that's not correct. Or that's not right. Awesome. Now, we don't want the program to end after one question. We want it to keep going for as long as the game lasts. And we don't know how long that game is going to last. So we're just going to have him ask questions forever. So we're going to put that there, and then we're going to put this back inside of it. So we're just going to have him ask questions forever until the game ends, and we'll control that in a different spot. All right, so that is all the code for our host. So if you want to pause the video right now and make sure you have everything set up just like I do, you're welcome to. Next thing we're going to do is program the opponent, which is I'm going to make him the guy in the orange. So we're going to have him next. So if you want to pause it, now's a good time. All right, so let's go make sure your opponent, your computer player is clicked, whichever one you want him to be. Make sure the little icon's up here. All right, so let's go to events, because when the flag is clicked, when the game starts, we want him to go, so he's going to end up over here somewhere. Well, when the game starts, we want to reset it. We want him to start right there every time, and we don't want to have to do that. So the first thing you want to do is go to motion, and you want to grab looks like the fifth one down, grab the go to X and click it there. Now you'll notice that since he's already here, the really neat thing about this is these numbers, the X and Y position, are already set for us. So when we put him right here, he was at X negative 61 and Y negative 129. So when we grab the block, it puts it here. But if I move him now, notice these numbers did not change, but the X and Y coordinates for the computer player did change. So now when I run it, the cat's going to ask a question, but the first thing that's going to happen in this code here is the opponent's going to go back to there. So let's test it. So boom, he went right back to there. So that always want to make sure that you have set up at the beginning of the program to do that. Now, the computer player is not going to be controlled by questions or anything like that. So we want him to continuously move across the screen. So without knowing how many, you can repeat things for a certain number of times, but if you don't know how many times they're going to be, a forever block might be the best thing to do. And notice that the forever block is flat on the bottom. You can't really put anything with it because it's never going to get out of here unless you stop it. And if you stop it, it's not going to run anymore. All right, so we want the computer player to move a little bit and wait, move a little bit and wait, just like that, all the way across the screen to give us a chance to answer questions. So we're going to move, and I'm just going to leave that at 10 for now. We can change it as we test our game. So that's in the motion, and then in the events or control, it's control. We're going to wait for 1 second. All right, so when the game starts, I'm going to go to the spot. I'm going to move 10 steps, wait a second. And then I'm going to go back up here, move 10 steps, wait a second, go back up here, and I'm just going to repeat that forever. So let's watch. So I'm going to click go. And you can't see it because the box is in the way, of course. Okay, so do that just to get the box out of the way. So now our little player's moving. It's moving across the screen. So now the last thing we have to do is test for hitting the edge. Awesome. So far we've got quite a bit done. All right, so we want to test for hitting the edge. So if you think about that logically, you're going to say if he's touching the edge, then, so we're going to use an if-then block. I'm going to put it inside the forever loop. That way it's going to move 10 steps, it's going to wait a second, it's going to see if it's touching the edge, and then if it is touching the edge, it's going to say, the computer won, you lost, and it's going to end the game. So let's go do that. So under looks, we're going to say, so I win, or you lose, or something along those lines, and then we're going to end the game. So that is all the way near the bottom of control, and we're going to stop all. And we want to make sure that's inside the if block, so be very careful with that. Now, the condition that we need to check, so if players, or if this icon right here, this sprite is touching the edge, so that's the one we're looking for. So I think that's under sensing. Yes, so the first one under sensing is touching. So we want to see if it's touching the edge. So we're going to do touching, and then we're going to find edge. All right, so let's test that out. Okay, and I'm just going to hit enter to get rid of that. And then we should be able to see our little guy go across the screen. And if you're impatient, you can always change that. Get him to go a little faster. But we want to test and make sure that when he hits the edge, he stops and we win. Or he wins, we lose. Yeah, perfect. So notice how he's just barely touching the edge, and he said that he won and game was over. I'm going to change that to 5 seconds, and I'm going to change that back to 10. All right. Now you can play with this number, how fast you want him to go based on how hard you want your game to be. But this is all the code for the computer player. Now notice he's way over here. This is going to put him back, so you don't have to drag him back at the end of every one. So if you need to get this code, pause it, and we'll move to the last part. All right, so now I want to do the computer or the human player. So make sure you have your human player sprite selected. Make sure it's the right one up here. Now remember, we had the cat yell go. So the first thing we need to do is listen for that message. So we don't want to do anything at all unless we get the word go that we can actually move. And I wish it would stop jumping around. All right, so once you get the command to move, we're going to move. I'm going to make this 100 so we don't have to answer a whole ton of questions to test it. And then I'm going to test for the edge just like I did before. So if you can come back here and see this one if you want to, or follow along. But we want to always test for the edge. Well, we don't really need to always test. We just need to test after we move. So let's not do that always. So let's just do if then. And again, remember, we're testing to see if we're touching, and that's under sensing. So if we're touching the edge, and that's this icon, whatever is under here, then we're going to say I won for maybe 3 seconds, and we're gonna play a sound. So let's add a sound, cheer. Turn my sound up a little bit so maybe you can hear it. All right, so we're going to play that sound, and that is under sound. We're going to play sound until done. And then he's going to say, I won. And then that's going to be the end of the game. So we're going to scroll down to control and grab stop all. Okay. And that is it. Our game has been coded. We just need to test it now. So let's go back through really quick and look at what we did. So the cat or the official or whatever sprite you used has the code under it to pick a random number 1 to 25, pick a random number for the second number 1 to 25, add those two together and store it in the correct answer. Then it's going to ask us what is number 1, whatever that number is, plus number 2, whatever that number is, and it's going to wait for us to answer. Once we answer, that answer is stored in answer. It's going to compare it to the correct answer. If it is correct, if they are equal, then it's going to tell us we can move. It's going to broadcast go. And it's also going to let us know visually that we got it correct. If they are not equal, then it's going to come down here and say, sorry, that's not right. So that's his job forever until the game ends. All right, diver number 2, or the computer player, he is going to, first thing he's going to do is go to his starting spot, and we need to add that to our player. I forgot it. And I would have realized that too when we played the game and had to put him back physically. And then he's forever going to move a little bit, wait, move a little bit, wait, and check to see if he's touching the edge. Once he touches the edge, it stops everything and the game's over. All right, now our player, we're going to drag. No, we're not going. We're going to make a when this starts. So when the game starts, he is going to go to his starting position. So make sure he's in his starting position and then just put that in there. Okay? Don't connect it to anything here because this only runs if the cat says go. Okay, so the first thing, when you click the flag, he's going to go back here. So let me show you. So he's going to go here, and I'm going to put him here. Now when the game starts, they're going to start back down here. So boom. Okay? All right. So just to make sure that that worked. And then finally, he's going to move 100 steps, check to see if he's touching the edge, and if so, he's going to play the win scenario and then stop the game. If he's not touching the edge, then nothing needs to happen. So let's try this out. So 2 plus 12 is 14. Okay. Oops. Okay, so I have a bug in the code somewhere because he kept moving over and over and over. So let's go to the cat kept saying correct. So, I only had him ask the question once. So I need to put all of this, whoops, I need to put all of this in the forever loop. So I need to, every time I need to start anew, every time it goes through the loop, I need to do everything in the loop. So that's how computer coding works. You do something and it works, or you do something and it doesn't quite work and you have to figure out why. That's the problem solving skills that we're learning. Okay, let's try again. So 22 plus 17 is 39. All right, he should ask another question. There we go. So 19 and 12 is 41. Nope, it was 31. 15 and 8, 23. Oh, I'm going to get beat. 17. Come on, give me another question. Hurry, hurry, hurry. 38. All right. It should have stopped. Okay. So we still got a little bit of a bug here with our code. So let's go back to our player. Okay. So this is working. When he touches the edge, it does run, but what's happening is it's playing the sound, which takes a little while, and then it's saying I won, which takes 3 seconds. So let's change that to 2. And then I'm going to take out the play sound. I'm going to take out the play sound. I'm going to leave that out, and I'm just going to throw it back in the bin. So one more test, and I think we're done. So let's try this out. 22, 28, 18, 23. All right, so he won. It says correct. Now it should stop all. There we go. All right, so let's go back to sound and see if we can figure out a better way. So it says, this one says play until done. So that means it's not going to do anything else until it finishes. Let's try this one. Okay. One more time, just to make sure the sound works. All right, so 11 and 19 is 30. 17. Whoops, I must have hit an extra number. Give me an easy one there. Yep, 6. 29 and 12. Okay, that's better, because the way what happens is when you play the sound until done, it doesn't do the second part until the sound's done. And then the I1 lasts for 2 seconds before it stops the game. So the sound is well, it doesn't have a time on it. Oh, it does up here. So the cheer is like 5 seconds. So that gives this guy 7 seconds to keep moving. So you got to be careful how you code it. But anyway, that should be good. So then make sure everything works. Share that. And then the link, you're going to copy the link and paste it into the URL submission on Canvas. All right, I hope that helps. Obviously, if you have any questions, ask.